You're listening to The Last Thing I Wished I Said. I'm Linda Overman. The Last Thing I Wished I Said is a place to share that last conversation you wished you'd been able to have with a loved one, but were unable to. Each episode, we talk to a different person who reveals their wished-for conversation with a loved one who they lost recently or long ago. Welcome to The Last Thing I Wished I Said. Today on The Last Thing I Wished I Said, we are speaking to Professor Janice Robinson. Janice is a professor of English at California State University, Northridge. She teaches in not just the English department, but has taught in the African American Studies department, and she works with other deans in academia to foster knowledge about different subjects. She's a very, very busy lady, and she took the time to let me come and visit her today in her beautiful new apartment and talk about her wonderful
grandmother.
And her grandmother's name was?
We called her Mama Tish, but her given name was Theresa Gertrude Carter.
And how old was, I'll call her Mama Tish because that's such a lovely name.
That's what we all called her.
When did she pass away?
She passed away in 1994, I want to say. Yes, it was around that time because I had just come to LA. I hadn't been here very long. And she was 98.
That about stops me. That's so astonishing. I mean, my own mother lasted till she was 96, and her mother lasted till 93. So we're plagued with the legacy of women who live a very long time.
Yes, that's right. I'm hoping.
But Janice, I had the pleasure of having Janice as a student way back in 2016, I believe. And Janice was one of these returning students who stood out like a huge beam of light among all of the classmates, and always had some very wise discourse to offer with these younger students who you could tell, certainly ate up that information. And so Janice is also, you want to talk a little bit about what you're pursuing in your career right now?
I am about to start at California State University in their EDD program, which is the doctoral program of education. And I started in the fall of this 2023.
So you'll still be teaching.
Yes. Hopefully 7 classes.
And taking courses.
Yes.
And trying to breathe and eat in between.
Yes.
And grade papers.
Yes.
Oh my God. So I'd love to hear a little bit about Mama Tish's background. Where was she born and where was she raised?
She was born in Richmond, Virginia. She never left Virginia. She was raised in Virginia. She came from a large family. I can't remember how many brothers and sisters. A lot of my history has not always been told to me.
Right.
So I remember her talking about a brother she had that would always do horrible things to her, like put bees under her pillow.
Oh my God.
And one time he poured like scalding hot water while she was soaking her feet into a tub and burned her legs all up because she ended up with scars on her leg for the rest of her life, and she would explain it.
Oh
my! I had a terrible brother. But it was playful. But he was, that was her brother. That's what brothers do, and. But she had great stories about, baking sweet potatoes in the fireplace when she was a kid, and, just simple life that we don't even know anything about now.
What took her from you? How did she pass away?
She was healthy pretty much up until she was about 96, 97 years old.
Oh my gosh.
She was, doing exercises in front of the door to the rap music next door. And then she had a stroke, and the change in her was so dramatic. You saw she wasn't her anymore. She looked young until she was 96. She did not look any different to me. And when she had that stroke, it changed her forever.
Was she left unable to speak or walk?
She could speak. She couldn't speak as well. She couldn't take care of herself anymore. So my aunt and my mother took turns taking care of her at the end. So she lived with one or the other. At the end, she was living with my mother.
Oh, wow. Oh, right. This was your mom's mom.
Yes.
So you said that she was born in Richmond, Virginia. What was her schooling or her career, or what did she do as a young?
She was basically uneducated. She was not educated.
Really?
She worked as a maid all of her life.
Even as a young girl,
Yes.
like a teen. She did not. She did go to elementary
She
school.
went to elementary school, but she, I don't even think she graduated from high school.
Okay.
And education was very important to her. All her daughters got college degrees,
Wow.
master's degrees, PhDs, so she expected at least they all went to college, and she expected that of them. And she put her husband put 3 daughters in through school.
Now, so she worked as a housekeeper.
Yes.
What else did she do to survive?
That's it. She worked as a housekeeper.
God, she must have been amazing. I mean, families probably just adored her.
Yes, yes.
I mean,
we did.
Now, how did she meet your grandfather?
I don't remember really the story of how they met. I know they met very early. She was, I think, 16 when they got married. My grandfather was this tall, striking. He's part Indian, so he looked very Indian. She was this very short, very dark complected African American woman, and he looked white almost, very Indian looking, very handsome.
Where did he come from?
He came from Virginia too.
Oh, okay.
And so I know he was in the military. I remember that. I know that much, but I'm really not sure how they met. But when they were married for all the years. My grandfather died when he was about 87.
Oh, so they stayed married the whole time.
They did.
Good
She
for
took
them.
care of him after he had a stroke and was unable to move. And I remember her. She's a little tiny woman, about 5'1" or so, and he was like 6'6", 6'7". She carried him up a flight of steps on her back.
My God.
That's how much she loved
She carried him
on her back. She said, "I don't know how I got the strength." She said, "But it's because I love that man."
Oh my God, that is amazing. This is when he had his stroke.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So she basically nursed him.
Yes, she did.
And you know what I love is nobody went into a home. Quote unquote.
No.
Which is what so many of us have to think about these
know.
days and have had to do with. I did it with my mother and her sister and her brother.
Yeah.
It's a different time. So they were married. How many years would you say?
At least 60.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
And so she had 3 daughters?
3 daughters.
And your mother is which?
She's the middle.
She's the middle.
Yes.
But they all went to university. I think you said your mother, I know this, your mother was a PhD at...
Yes, she got Ohio State. She got her PhD from Ohio State in linguistics. And then the oldest sister, she was a librarian. And then the youngest sister, who's still alive, my Aunt Margaret, she taught in the Virgin Islands.
Oh my gosh, that's really admirable.
Yeah.
So when all of your grandmother's children kind of were launched, what kind of life did she lead? Once all her kids were out of the house. I mean, all the kids got married, obviously,
yes.
Right? Had children, and so what was your earliest memory of Mama Tish?
Going to her house. Every time I got sick with the chicken pox, the measles, I couldn't wait. I knew I was going to get spoiled rotten.
You were dispatched to her house?
Yes, because, she lived in Virginia. My mother at the time was living in Ohio, so, or Maryland. We lived in Maryland, too.
Right.
She would get in the car, drive us there, because she knew, she had to work, and she couldn't take care of us all day.
Right.
So we knew 2 or 3 months I'd be there. I was like, yes.
And why did you look so forward to it?
Because she spoiled us. One of my favorite memories of being sick with, I think I had the measles is she got in the bed with me, because I'd cry all night and I didn't feel good. And I ended up throwing up, just reaching over and throwing up.
Well, that's not uncommon as a child.
She didn't get fazed by it a bit. She just got up and changed the bedding. And she was like, "It's okay, baby." And
she just took care of it.
Yeah, and then got right back in the bed,
Oh.
with me. And, and I remember my grandfather putting his favorite leather jacket on top of me too, which he He loved that jacket. He would shine that jacket up all the time and take care of it. For him to put that on me, so I might throw up on it.
What was the significance of the jacket? Was
It was just, he couldn't afford nice things.
Okay.
So when you have a nice thing,
special?
yeah, yeah.
And he allowed it.
He allowed me to be on, under it.
And maybe soil
warm.
it, but that
because they didn't have, heating in the house, regular heating.
didn't.
They used a coal stove.
Oh my, yes.
I remember my grandmother getting up in the morning and shaking that coal in the morning.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And we would have the little potties by the bed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did your grandfather do to support the family?
He worked for a company called Miller and Rhodes for his whole life as a janitor.
Bless his heart.
And he got that little gold watch when, that they give you when it's time to go. But that's,
And he was 6'7", you said?
Yes, he was a tall,
wow.
handsome.
Wow.
He was in several wars because he would talk to me because he used to have this weird way of drinking out of a glass where his bottom lip would be in the glass.
Interesting.
And he told me the reason he did that was during war, you had to get the shrapnel out. Oh. And that's how you would filter. He filtered it out, so he kept drinking like that.
I did not know that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So do you know if he was in the Army or you don't know which part?
I think he was in the Army. Pretty much.
So
I'm pretty
he must have been in World War II in Korea?
Yes.
Do you think?
Yes, probably.
Or not Vietnam?
Because my grandmother was born in the 1800s. So,
Yeah, but you don't know.
No, it wasn't Vietnam.
He would have already been out.
Yeah.
So you don't know what he did or what his.
I don't.
But still.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to thank him for his service.
Yes, we do.
And so what about you are one of 3 girls, right? Mm-hmm. So would you all go sometimes at the same time to grandma's house, or was it just like one at a time? Whoever
we would all go in the summer, because my mother, she was getting her master's, PhD.
Sure.
So she went to Wesleyan to get her master's. So we would spend the whole summer with our grandmother, and just so much fun.
What was your typical fun summer day like with her? Or
we'd be outside all day. It would get hot in Richmond. Outside all day, running around, playing, getting dirty, playing with the boy next door. Sliding up and down. She had banisters, sliding up and down the banisters all day. No clothes on because it was hot. Yeah. Sliding up and down the
Oh my gosh, that sounds like fun.
We would have so much fun. And then she loved to play games at night because it was too hot in the house. So we would sit outside. She didn't have air conditioning. So we would sit out in the house and play games like, Password, which she made it up, And she loved to play Pokino, which I have introduced to my grandchildren now. They love it. We have I bought them the cards last summer, and it makes me feel like I'm close to her.
Yeah,
and she had
the
a
legacy
big
continues.
Jar of pennies that she would pull out, and then we'd pass the pennies around, but we had to put them back. We couldn't keep them.
Darn it.
But and I remember we would take she'd have to boil water to give us baths.
Oh my God.
And take that water. So me and my little sister would always take a bath together.
Right.
And there she'd be running up and down the hall with a big bucket, throwing the water in to clean us all up.
Oh my God.
It's a very simple life. She did not have a gas stove or electric stove. She had an outhouse.
Yeah. No, I mean, just to think of the character of a person like that, and what they took for normal, that was just their norm.
Yes.
And there was, you just lived, I mean, that is pretty amazing. And it's understandable now that your mom, who went on as your aunts did to higher education, and so you come back to school with these higher aspirations, which I saw very well when you were my student and stood out like a bright shining star, and became a teaching associate, and then you teach still.
Yes.
And so how about when your mom, where did she reside when she started her family with your dad?
And we started out in a little town called Hollywood, Maryland.
Oh, yes.
That's where I got my aspirations to be an actress, because when I saw Hollywood, I was like, that's it for me.
You've arrived.
But it was just a tiny little country place. My mother taught at the school, the high school there. I remember, and you know,
Do you know how your parents? Do you still know how your
they
parents
met. I think at Virginia Union. They both went to school there, and that's where they met. Uh,
And did they date for very long, or
I
did
don't
they?
know how long they dated, but they both wound up in the Virgin Islands teaching
Oh, wow.
somehow. I don't know, and that's where I came to be.
Were you the oldest or the youngest?
I was the middle too.
Oh, you're the, as my father-in-law used to say, the meat and the sandwich.
Yes.
So did she have you guys right away, like, or was she married for a while?
Well, I think, so my older sister is 11 years older than me,
Okay.
and then my little sister is 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
So I think she probably had, because would have been in her 30s probably when she had me. She probably had me right away.
Were you an oops?
I don't think so.
11 years later, that's quite a distance.
No,
Yeah.
I think
You were planned.
I'm sure my father wanted a family, and this was not his first marriage either. This
Right.
was his second. He had
Right.
2 boys.
Right, you have
before.
two half brothers. That's
Yes,
right.
yeah.
What was your dad? Was he also teaching in the Virgin Islands with your mom?
He's a school counselor. That's what he was.
Oh, wow.
So he had his master's degree as well. So everybody in my family was educated.
Which is, a legacy to your grandmother
Mhm.
in a way. And then, so where were you and your sisters really mostly raised?
Mostly raised in Ohio, and
But you were born in the Virgin Islands?
Yes, I was born in the Virgin Islands.
No wonder you like to go back and visit.
I love the Caribbean. I love the islands.
Of course.
Any
It's your home.
island, I feel at home immediately when I go there.
Yeah, I mean, and so you were raised in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
What
a little
area?
town called Yellow Springs, where Antioch College used to be.
Oh, right.
My mother taught at a school called Wilberforce University.
Oh, yes,
and,
yes.
their Central State isn't that far away either. So those are pretty well-known African American colleges.
And all of you went to college, I believe.
I didn't
right?
go to school until you met me.
but you went.
but yeah, my little sister and my older sister, they went pretty much immediately in their 20s,
Right.
But I waited until older and decided I wanted to be a rock star. And
Well, I did the same. I flunked out of college because I was too busy protesting the war and having a great time flirting with all these lovely boys.
Yes.
I thought that's what I was supposed to do.
I was living.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And then, Hollywood and all we've talked, you had a career in Hollywood. And so what brought you to LA to start that? You were an actress,
I came to LA to be an actress before the time, by then I was in my mid 30s and time was flying, and I'm like, either I'm going to do this now or I'm not. And so that's what brought me here.
And did you immediately start getting work because you have this beautiful exotic look?
I did start getting work immediately. My daughter, actually, too, when she came here, she started getting work, too, the two of us.
Right. You have your daughter, Kira.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you came here, were you doing I remember you would go on auditions all the time.
Yes.
So were you working? You were working pretty steadily?
I was working steadily. I had to because I had a child to take care of.
Yes, you've been a single parent all these years.
I became a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I have my pension coming from it now.
And you still go on auditions.
Yeah, I just had one for McDonald's just the other day.
I don't know how you have the time.
Thank
Really?
goodness now a lot of the auditions are
online.
Online. You do them in your house. So I come in, drag in, tired, and just put the camera up and go hi, and then do my thing and ship it.
Amazing. So you worked in the business before coming back to school for how long?
Since 1991.
And the fact that you were constantly
even
employed.
longer than that. I think I began to be in the Screen Actors Guild in 91, but I did modeling and stuff since 1975.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, it's really kind of fortunate. There's a lot of people out here in LA that sit at Starbucks writing scripts, but it never goes anywhere.
That's true.
So the fact that you've been steadily working. Because I know you've done extra work, you've done, I guess they call it background
now. Yes, I do I've done stand-in work, I've done principal work.
Yeah, you've done everything.
Commercials.
Yeah,
all of it.
No, well, what caused you to go back to school?
Screen Actors Guild had a strike.
Oh, God.
And the Writers Guild, everybody was looking at each other like, we're going to starve. And so I had to think of something else. And at first I said, I'm going to sell real estate. And I couldn't pass the math part of the real estate exam.
I joined the club. I can barely spell math.
I'm terrible at math.
Me too.
So bad.
Me too. That's why I'm in English.
Yeah. So I went back to Glendale Community College just to take a math class. And then I decided to take some writing classes for fun, and everyone started saying, "Oh my gosh, you're a great writer.
Yes.
You should be doing this."
You are.
Blah blah blah.
That's right.
And I ended up working for a professor there too that taught English.
Right.
Just helping him intern in the summer, grading, doing a little grading and entering in absences and stuff. And that's when I realized, wow,
Yeah.
I have a knack for this.
Yes. Obviously.
And I like this.
Yes.
And it feels good. And so.
Well, now, how old were you when your grandmother passed away?
I was about 47 years old when she passed
So
away.
were you back in school?
I had just started back.
Okay.
Yes.
So she knew that you went back to school.
And I got to tell her that. But I wanted her to, I really had hoped she would see me.
Exactly.
Do it,
yes. And so, I mean, if you could speak to her now, what do you think? If you had been with her, in those last months, days, what do you think you would have said to her?
I think I would have told her that I did it. And I think what I would have heard from her is what I heard from her when I told her I was pregnant with my daughter. She knew I wanted to have children, and she knew I needed that love relationship. And she said to me, I'm so, she always would say, I'm so proud of you. She never was disappointed in me because I wasn't married when I got pregnant with my daughter. And
well, that's everybody now.
Yeah, but in my family and it wasn't looked at as something you should do.
Of course.
And so, but she didn't go there. She's going to have something to love now. You're going to have your very own little thing to love, And so I think she would have responded to me the same way about my education. She would have said, I always knew you could do it.
Yes.
You just had to have she said you had to have that life so you could have this life.
So she never judged you for, your sisters went off. Okay. They went to college, and you chose the path. Like a lot of people. I grew up in Hollywood. Everybody I knew, was in the biz or wanted to be. And to me, that was so normal.
Yeah.
And the fact that you took that detour, she never judged you.
She was the only one, and she did not. And, my sisters just went through all the pictures that she had.
Oh.
And she saved every picture of me, all the big hair.
Yes.
The mink little stoles thinking I was Miss Hollywood.
All your glam.
She saved every single one. So she was very proud of me, obviously, or she would have tossed them. Every letter I wrote her telling her what I was doing, she saved every single one. They sent some of them back to me, and I have them.
Oh, my God, that is really, really touching, and you're so lucky.
I am.
I mean, I know I've known you a long time, and, we've both been through many trials and tribulations, and the fact that you're that one parental figure that doesn't judge you. I mean, some of us wish we could say that about our mothers, not judging us or judging us. And of course, my own mother, I had issues with her judging me. I know you had issues with your mother
and
judging
my father,
you
both.
And your dad. But the thing is, this constant presence of everything is okay and you're just loved is a precious thing, and it's rarer than it should be.
And it taught me to be a good mother. It taught me to love.
Absolutely.
I needed that example of how to love, and she is my example. All of my sisters, we say that to each other. She taught us how to love.
Would they say the same? Do you think about your grandmother that they all felt that same?
The same. She didn't treat
devotion.
Any of us different. We were all her. She said, I don't have an ugly child. She was talking about her grandchildren, her children, her great-grandchildren. You'd send her a picture. I'd send her a picture of my daughter, and she goes, I don't have an ugly child.
Well, having met your daughter, I have to agree. I mean,
she's funny. She was so funny.
I mean, the fact that she would welcome you in the summers, all of you. I mean, that's really special.
And she didn't have anything. She had nothing,
But she gave you everything.
She gave us everything.
Yeah, and the fact, and being a grandmother myself, I know how exhausting that is.
Yeah. And I mean, she cooked homemade rolls, and we'd sit there and waiting for them to come out,
my God.
and she'd give us one, put butter on it, and I'd be begging for more. But she cooked all the time the most magnificent meals out of nothing, and I mean, we ate salt pork for breakfast, fried salt pork. She'd make these cornmeal pancakes and put Karo syrup. We didn't know what maple syrup was or Aunt Jemima syrup was.
It sounds kind of tasty,
but
actually.
It was very good. She'd put some of the fat from the bacon in a bowl, and that was called sop. And she'd make the hot water cornbread on top of the stove, and you'd take the cornbread and you dip it in the sop. You put a little bit on the side of your plate.
Yeah.
I should have heart disease now.
Well,
but she lived to that age eating like that.
And so she lived to 98, and was she? I know you said the stroke changed
but
her.
She was healthy up to then,
and she was mentally sound as well.
Yes, very much so. She was flirting in the grocery store. We'd have to drag her out of there.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She was hilarious. She was very quick-witted, and yeah.
I want to thank you so much for sharing your stories about Mama Tish. What a beautiful soul she was.
Yes.
It's hard not to believe that she isn't looking down on you with such pride.
My daughter told me her very first Thanksgiving she fixed with her husband when she first got married, and she had just left LA, left me. She said, Mama Tish was in the kitchen with her, and it gave me the chills.
and it gives me the chills, you saying that. And I think we all should be so blessed with someone like Mama Tish. Yeah. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Janice, it's such a pleasure to see how much you've accomplished. I mean, it's really an honor to have a former student, show such amazing
I wouldn't be
progress.
Here without you. You helped me so much.
Well,
and
likewise.
I'm very grateful.
Likewise.
Very, very grateful.
Students like you are the reason that some of us teach, actually, and one of our colleagues who I interviewed previously, who well, Jessica Stewart, we talked about the same thing, how lucky we were, and I'm so grateful to you. And for our listening audience, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you get your podcasts. If you go onto Google Podcast or Amazon Podcast and follow the show, it would be lovely if you would write a little review or give us a star or a like. It would be much appreciated. And so we'll be back again. I have more interviews to share, and these are so heartwarming. Thank you again, Janice.
Thank you.